Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, everybody. This is your main man, Preacher Moss, the host of the SOS to Shout Out Show. I am so glad to be here today. This is an action weekend. We have so many things going on. We have Juneteenth going on today, and we have Father's Day going on, and these are just two scenarios, holidays that are near and dear to me. I'm looking forward to talking to my pops on Father's Day and just reminiscing about all the good things we had, my grandfather. And as well, this is Juneteenth, the massive Juneteenth being celebrated in a way I haven't seen it celebrated for a very long time. All we're missing is the black cowboys that they used to have from the Fulanis. But, you know, it's okay. It's all right. I know some of you tuning in. Here's the deal, people. We have a special show today. You know, I normally don't have guests. I'm normally the talking head on the show for the whole 20, 25 minutes, sometimes 30 minutes and a little bit above. But when I bring a guy on the show, when I bring a guest on the show, it's for a particular reason. And he's not here yet. He's going to pop on and we're going to get him set up. But I want to give a little shout out to my brother who's going to be out on the show here in a little bit, Imam Zaid Shakir. And I'll give you a little background about my relationship with Imam Zaid before we bring him on. Back in 2004, I was on this journey where I was trying to bring the immigrant Muslim community and the indigenous Black Muslim community together under the auspices of something that was challenged. I was challenged by Imam Muhammad, and I was using comedy to do it. And I had a project called Allah Made Me Funny, the official Muslim comedy tour. Now, people back in 2004, a lot of people don't understand what it really took to get it up and going. Coming to a community I really didn't have any familiarity with, but still trying to do this thing. I had this big goal of getting people together. And it was funny because I knew no people outside my immediate family who are, you know, Indian, Pakistani, Arab. I didn't do that. So I'm clearly out of my comfort zone here. And I think it was the day or maybe a couple days before the first show in Toronto. I've been doing all this press and running around, and I had sold the Muslim community in a huge way that Muslims were going to come out to this club called Yuck Yucks. So you're going to come out, you're going to respect us, no alcohol. The owner, Mark Breslin, he had bought into the whole thing of, I'm even going to go out and get halal food. We got a halal chicken to make. I mean, it was a massive thing. Deep inside, though, I'm thinking, yo, this thing could go really bad. Nobody could show up. And my partner was actually talking to Imam Zaid on the phone, and he kind of was like, "Hey, you know, da 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 da," and he said, "Hey, man, you want to talk to him?" I didn't know Imam Zaid. You know, I thought Imam Zaid might be, you know, Pakistani brother, but I get him on the phone. I'm like, "This ain't a Pakistani brother." He's like, "Preacher Moss, how you doing, brother?" And I'm like, "Oh, brother, alhamdulillah." And he starts talking, and he just brought a sense of calm to everything I was going through. And what was funny was we're just talking, and he has that voice. See, Imam Zaid's like an old jazz dude who can't play anymore, but you love him for what he played. He's like, "Preacher Moss," because he talks that way. I'm thinking he's going to whip out a saxophone or start playing on drums. We had that, "Preacher Moss, you know, you're going to be all right, brother, and you're going to be good, man, and everything's going." And he gave this dua, man. And I'm here to tell you, yo, this dua, hold on a minute. We're trying to get Imam Zaid in. Okay, hold on a minute. Tariq, I don't have him in right now. I'm gonna send another. Let me send another invite real quickly. So Tariq. Sorry, people. This is live. This is live broadcasting here. So I'm trying to get Imam Zaid Tariq. Okay. Tarek, if you're watching, I just sent the link to here. So if you can give that to Imam Zaid, I really appreciate it. Sorry, people. Sometimes these things happen. So while we get Imam Zaid on here, brothers and sisters, apologies. So listen, I'm telling a story about Imam Zaid first I meet him. And he gives this dua, man. And it's very intense, it's very nuanced. You know, he's going through it, and I'm like getting, and in the end of the dua, he goes, and be funny. He says, and be funny. So listen, this show, I normally go on a rant. I'm not going to go on a rant. I see my brother in the back. Let me bring him in right now. And we give some shout outs as well. Thank you for coming, brothers. Imam Zaid, you got a lot of people. The man, the myth, the legend. What's going on, beloved?
Alhamdulillah, Allah's Rahim and Kareem and everything in between.
Oh, see, there you go, man. You pour it in, you know it. Ladies and gentlemen, this is my main man. Look, if they don't know you, then they just don't know, Sheikh. That's the way I tell them, man. Okay, and I appreciate you.
Introduction.
First things first, man. How is your family?
Alhamdulillah, everyone's well by the grace of Allah. Allah is most kind and most merciful, most beneficent and most magnificent.
And if your queen is in the room, how's your queen doing?
Yeah, she's holding it down.
All right,
man. You're holding it up. Like holding the frying pan over my head. Make sure.
There you go, bro. I know, man. It could be a hostage situation. Look, they got all these people, man. All right. I know this brother Ali's giving these salams and alhamdulillah. So first of all, I want to welcome you to my little project here, the Shout Out Show. I appreciate it, man. I know you're a busy guy and you coming on, and I appreciate it's a lot.
You want to know how busy? I'm so busy. I joined the wrong session. I joined the 720 StreamYard instead of yours. This is the third out of 4 events. We had the live Jummah, the reopening of the Masjid Jummah. Then we had the UK, and then we have Preacher Mosque, and then we got Musa.
Tonight, man.
Tonight, that's right.
Hey, brother,
you on that one too?
Hey, man. Now you're a frequent flyer, brother.
Yeah, with no plane.
No plane, brother. You just point and click right now. Just point and click.
Alhamdulillah. Allah's Rahim.
I mean, exactly, man. So Sheikh, a lot of people, when they see sheikhs, they see sheikhs, man. And before you were Muslim, bro, I had a question, man. Who were some of the people that influenced you before you were Muslim?
Oh man, I was deeply influenced, I would say, by there was a professional football player.
Really?
That lived across the street, man, by Mr. Pierce. Like he moved to Connecticut. We were in New Britain, Connecticut. He moved there from Mississippi. And so he was a great influence because my father wasn't around. I have good relations with my father now. It was rocky for many years. But alhamdulillah, I became a Muslim and started reading those hadith about honoring your parents. And I said, man, I got to make this thing work. Anyway.
Yeah. I went through that. I know exactly what you're talking about.
That's one of the blessings of Islam. But so my father wasn't really around a lot of the time. So Mr. Pierce was he was a mentor. He got us involved in sports. He looked out. He was really a big influence. I said another influence was my cousin, Harry Montgomery. Harry Montgomery was a big time corporate lawyer for General Foods, their headquarters in White Plains, New York. And he was like one of those Ebony Magazine 100 most eligible bachelors before he got married. I mean, because he's big time corporate lawyer. He has some big time way up in the totem pole at General Foods. and then he got married. So yeah, I think 3 children.
Yeah, married is
He
that's
was one of those older cousins, like one of those cousins that's really an uncle.
Okay.
The way things shook out, he was a cousin, but he should have been an uncle, one of those cousins. And when I was, after high school and I got hurt playing football and I didn't know what my life was going to be like, he was stepped in and really gave me sound advice that helped me to point me in a good direction, helped me to stay out of trouble and not seek quick solutions to deep-rooted problems. So I said, Mr. Pierce, Harry Montgomery, my mother, of course, my mother was a great influence and role model and everything else. She was a writer. She was an activist. She was, she was, and probably
I read that book.
She didn't have 7 of us. She probably, I hope maybe in the previous administration, she might have been a ministress of something, but I don't know. Current administration, she might be in jail.
So Sheikh, man, what do you make of everything you're seeing right now? I mean, we made it. I feel like we crossed the finish line. We made it to Juneteenth.
Alhamdulillah. You know what? I mean, I don't want to sound callous because, the George Floyd thing really moved me to tears. I'm sure a lot of people saw the callous, sadistic, pornographic nature of that murder. The dude just casually with his hand in his pocket, like he doesn't realize, as if he doesn't realize he's snuffing the life out of somebody. So, that was painful. But at the end of the day, I don't want to sound callous myself, but it's just another day in the dunya. Every year in this country, upwards to 1,100 people are killed by the police of all races, disproportionately, tremendously. Depends on in the East Coast, African Americans, West Coast, Southwest, Latinos, kind of Rocky Mountains, Native people. But that's 3 a day. And we know how long just in the African American context the list is. We could just, we could go back from George Floyd to Breonna Taylor to Ahmaud Arbery, because those police vigilantes, they were retired, but they were still surrogates for the police department. You can just go back through Eric Garner and through Tamir Rice and Ramari Graham and Sean Bell and Gary King and Oscar Grant and Ayanna Jones and Rikayo Boyd, and you could just spend the whole program. And so to pretend that it's something new and unprecedented, I think certainly the way Allah Ta'ala used it as a spark, and the callousness, the inexcusable, like you can't say is resisting, you can't say you thought he had a gun, you can't say nothing. The man subdued totally, and then 9 minutes, so I think that just it hit people in a very powerful and profound way that made them realize that there's a problem. But,
yeah, I mean,
in and of itself is just another one of those 1,100 killings that need to be addressed.
I had that feeling, Sheikh. I had that feeling. I rewatched Spike Lee's "Do the Right Thing."
Okay.
And the scene with Radio Raheem, it just brought back all kinds of memories where he gets choked out. And I was just saying it on another program. As a comedian, I remember Richard Pryor walking out on stage with live in concert. His first joke is about a chokehold they use in Long Beach on black people. And he literally goes, look at the black people like, yeah. He's like, look at the white people. We don't know what he's talking about. And it was just, okay, that's the magic of Pryor, man. But, that's just a nuanced, layered guy. But I think some of the things that's interesting is like, some of the arguments or movements that we're seeing. I'm old enough to say, hey, I did the apartheid marches. I was in the second march on Washington.
Those, man. We at Rutgers University, Princeton, we were networking with Columbia on the apartheid thing. Yeah.
So it's like this is like a social media type protest. It's still valid, but I'm like, I sometimes I'm like, do we have an agenda that's going to go on after all of this stuff happens? You know what I mean?
I think you see a lot of change, and I think there's a foundation for some meaningful reform. But the thing is as Muslims, I think we should. I was just like I said on with the United Kingdom. So Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations, he came up, and in the context of, at the heart of his book was the idea of comparative advantage.
Mm-hmm.
Like everyone shouldn't be producing the same thing. You should be producing what you have an advantage in comparison to potential competitors or rivals. And so, what is our comparative advantage as Muslims? Our comparative advantage is Islam. And so, as much as, or more so than, we should be out protesting and doing the things like peaceful protests, of course, we should be teaching people that we don't have to live like this, that we don't have to look at each other like this, that we don't have to follow in the footsteps of Shaitan, the first racist. Shaitan was the first racist, and not just pointing out to people what's wrong, but showing people what's right, and demonstrating that to people. And Muslims will say, well, there's racism in the Muslim community. Okay, there might be, but make sure there's no racism in you, and then you go out and teach the people. You know, everyone can make an excuse for not doing something. You know, you have people on the right, you know, the man's murdered, and they talking about Antifa. And
Yeah.
my knowledge so far, the feds haven't arrested a single person with an affiliation with Antifa. Of all the people pillaging and looting, you find a lot of right-wing folks up in that mix who've been arrested, like the guy from the Boogaloo Boys who shot the cop in Oakland, and they tracked him down. He's with that movement. He's not with Antifa. And so, but they talking about Antifa this and Antifa that, and discarding the fact that all this stuff jumped off because this man was murdered in such a callous, sadistic, and pornographic fashion. And so, what about that? And how do we begin to address that? And so, I think, you know, anyone can find an excuse not to do anything or say anything, but we have to step back and, as Muslims, and look, what is our comparative advantage?
Well, I wonder, because
atheist people who support atheistic ideas, they're not going to teach people about La ilaha illallah. They're not going to teach people about Shaitan and how Shaitan manipulates people, because they don't believe in all that. And so for us to give everything we have following their lead is it doesn't make sense to me.
Let me ask you to shake out the
so that doesn't mean not participate. I said following their lead with everything we have. And we have to hold back something to give what we have that they don't have.
Let me ask you to shake, because this is the title of the show is called "Can Stupid Be Healed?" And I got this title from a young fella, I think he's maybe about 8 years old, and just caught him out at the grocery store, you know, looking at everything going on. And I heard his mother trying to explain to him, and he just cut through it right away. He goes, "Mama, that's stupid." And it reminded me when I was a kid, you know, there was two things in your neighborhood to explain behavior. You could be crazy, you could do something crazy, or you could do something stupid.
Right.
Crazy is like, oh, you just went out there. Stupid is you knew what you were doing and you did it anyway. And I think these days I'm looking at so much good in the world, but I see a lot of ridiculousness in the world. Like people are looking for a reaction. You know what you're going to get when you do that, and it's almost the height of people doing irrational things, hoping people have rational understanding of it. I talked about behavioral economics in a couple shows back, but it seems that we're in that space and things are kind of being moved around. Like we see it, but you almost have to do a double take. Like, did that just happen? Like it's an interesting piece, man. I, like we've had the death of several things, several janazas. Cops died and live PD died. So those shows aren't on the air anymore. It's like people are waking up to this type of stuff. I want to ask you about that whole aspect of just like people's behavior. We talk about adab and things like that. It's just people's behavior. Like we talk as men, as Muslims. What would we say to the person who's not Muslim? What would we say to that 8-year-old kid who just said, that's stupid? And he philosophically he's correct.
Yeah, stupid can be healed, but not all stupidity and not all stupid people. But by the grace of Allah, with good guidance, different sets of examples, positive modeling, stupid can be healed. Just like all cases of any illness can be healed. A great percentage can, not all. So not all stupidity can be healed, but stupid can be healed. And I think we have to point that out to people. Like, listen, you don't have to be stupid. You don't have to confirm Einstein's definition of insanity. Do the same thing over and over and expect different results. That you can begin to look at things differently and do things differently. And I think that's where Muslims come in. We are the people who are supposed to say, listen, we don't have to look at each other through this prism that America has created. We could look at each other through another prism. And we don't have to reinforce these categorizations. I don't, just this whole white, black thing. I don't like that language. Number one, it's a unique American creation that burdens us with some baggage we don't need to carry. There are no white people in Europe. There's Anglos and Saxons and Franks and Celts and Welsh and Scots and Danes and Swedes. There are no white people. And there's no black people in Africa. There's Wolof and Bambara, Mandinka, Hausa, Fulani, Tawarif, Berber, so these categories were invented here in this country for a specific purpose. And a lot of people talk about white supremacy. White supremacy is rooted in this categorization. And its primary objective is to separate people, like dehumanizing people who have been categorized as black people. That's a side benefit. But the main purpose was, if you go back, I mentioned this several times in various webinars and things, Bacon's Rebellion, 1675. So they weren't Americans yet. That was a century later, over a century. It was European slaves and African slaves. And Bacon got the European and African slaves together to overthrow the system because he was treated fairly. And so the plantation owners, they countered by freeing the European slaves and then saying, you guys are white and you're better than these people. We're going to give you a little extra, slot. We're going to take a little from the pig and give it to you. And so you eat better. And so you oversee them and you control them. And so this whole system of violent repression was put into place around that dichotomy. And so now then we inherit that. We inherit that. And I'm not trying to critique anyone, but I'm trying to make a point. One of the ways we inherit that is this group of folks, they say Black Lives Matter. And then this group of folks, they're neo-Nazis, they say white lives matter. And this is just the heritage of this place. We need to transcend that so we can begin to look at each other differently. and then inshallah we'll have far different outcomes. And I'm not talking about different outcomes in terms of reform. Like reform is happening, as you said, cops is gone and whatever else. I don't watch this stuff, but I'm talking about different outcomes in terms of who we are as human beings and how we can move beyond the ways of seeing each other that put so much hatred and vitriol into us, so that we can have the possibility of moving this thing forward. Because like Minneapolis, they had police reform. They had the body cameras, they had the sensitivity training, they had all of that stuff, and you still get George Floyd being executed on the street. And so at the end of the day, institutions are collectivities of human beings. And if you don't reform the human being along with the reformation of the institution, so I'm not talking about I'm against structural and institutional change, or if the institution doesn't work at all, eradication. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying to complete the picture and complete the foundation for real progress, you have to reform the human being. And that's the comparative advantage that Islam has in reforming human beings. And we have the greatest proof right here in the United States of America. You have hundreds of thousands, if not by now over 1 million people who are dehumanized by this situation we have here and became heartless. They became Bigger Thomas, the nihilistic killer that Richard Wright talked about in our prison system. And they become Muslims. And some of these brothers, you have recidivism, you have people, but some of them, a large number, become saints. They go from the of sinners to saints. And so that wasn't done by reforming the prison system. The system still has all of the imperfections that it's qualified by. That was done by reforming the human being. And that's the power of Islam historically, and we have to make that the power contemporarily. Otherwise, we just, we're giving all of our energy to an experiment and we don't know it's gonna work. Islam works. We've seen it with our eyes. I've seen the most incorrigible. I know a brother, he was so incorrigible, he was incarcerated for 9 years. Out of those 9 years, 7 were in SEG, or better known, people might know, solitary confinement.
Yes, sir.
When he took Shahada, he spent the last year in population. Islam totally conformed him. And then when he left, he was a contributing member of society. That wasn't the result of institutional reform. That was the result of personal reformation. And so we have to bring the two together. And as Muslims, our comparative advantage, so I'm not denying the advantage others have in that social arena, but I'm saying, what is our comparative advantage? And if we don't start giving this to people, then there's danger, even with the reforms and no more cops and getting rid of some police forces. Virtually every city, the police were eliminated, they came back.
Let me ask you a question, Sheikh. One of the one of the issues with white supremacy that I've known for a lot of years, I felt for a lot of years, is when we have these movements, we don't see our sisters represented as well as the female voices. Like we talk about black men, we're not seeing black female voices enough. What can we do to amplify those voices, Sheikh?
I think that was one of the premises for Black Lives Matter starting. Black Lives Matter was started by 3 queer black women. So there's your women. So that's right there in the mission statement.
What about the ones that aren't queer? How about that?
I'm sure there's women. In Connecticut, one of my nieces was instrumental in organizing one of the biggest rallies in Hartford, Connecticut. Another One of my nieces was involved in the one in New Haven. So there have been a lot of women out front. We've seen them, Muslim and others. So women are well represented, I would say. And then in these situations where there's potential violence, I wouldn't want my wife down there.
Well, that's real talk. That's real
When
talk.
tear gas canisters are flying at people's head, and you see a Muslim sister with hijab, they're probably aiming at her specifically. The way these people are rolling. Listen, preach, let's take a commercial while I go get a charger for my computer, because I don't want to die. So you can tell the people a joke or something while I go get the computer.
I'm gonna pull up a commercial for you,
Yeah.
and I'll just wait till you come back. Hold on a minute. Go ahead and step out.
Bismillah.
People often ask me, how do you write comedy? Well, comedy is an art form, it's communication. People often ask me, how do you write comedy? And I reach in my pocket and I say, I do it with this pen, but I'm surgical with it. People often ask me, Preacher Moss, how do you write comedy? And I tell them, listen, everybody has a talent, but it takes skill to get paid for the talent. It takes discipline to maintain the skill. With that said, when you do all those things, you're not writing comedy. It's writing yourself. All right, everybody, we're back, man. We're get some fire. I'm gonna tell everybody who's watching, if you have something that you'd like to ask specifically of the Sheikh, this would be a good time. We only have maybe about 8 to 10 minutes left of the show. You know, we're normally out of here at 5:25, but this is different because we got Imam Zaid Shakir on here dropping all kind of knowledge. And let me give up some people. Brother Ali's in here. Ridwan's in the house. Sister Angelique Zakir, Fareed Hassan, thank you so much. We have hopefully this has been well received, because one of the things that I have been talking about really is what this new dynamic is going to look like moving forward. The show, I think it said when the smoke settles, or when the dust settles, in terms of where we're going to be in terms of our activism, and more so in terms of, you know, what's the new direction. I hear the word the new normal, and I get a little nervous. Because normal is not what we do as artists. But again, I'm thinking, hey, listen, this is an opportunity for us to have this dialogue. I want to give 2 shouts out. Brother Ali, you know, man, I love you too, man. And Brother Nazim Hussein, all the way from Australia, man. You still owe me those pictures of your little man, but I ain't going to hold it. I'm not going to blast you out. So send the pictures and stop playing. We're going to bring Imam Zaid back in.
Listen, Preacher Mark, I can't find my charger, so if I die, I'm going to just switch to
the. You're in good shape, Sheikh. I'm going to tell you why. You know how people do, they do 2-hour programs?
Yeah.
I don't do 2 hours. I do 25, 30 minutes.
Okay, so
I'll tell you what. Why don't you give us just some wisdom? It's Father's Day. Give us a little Father's Day wisdom before we get out of here. I see a lot of fathers on here.
Yeah.
Azim was saying is a new dad. He wanted to give me his pictures, man. You don't know how the game goes.
I got the phone back up just in case. But since you asked, man, I'll tell you this. You know, I think we have to be strong men, and we have to not fear the criticism of the criticizer. If someone has a problem with the Quranic statement, "Ar-rijal qawwamuna 'ala an-nisa," men are the protectors and maintainers of women, then that's just their problem with the Quran. But as men, we should see ourselves as protectors and see ourselves as supporters of our women folk. And so that we can have nurturing families where we nurture each other, and it's a mutual relationship. They are garments for you, you are garments for them. We have to be Garments protect. So in the winter coat, in the wintertime, we put on an overcoat to protect us from the elements. Garments protect each other. Garments beautify each other. So like you would have a leather overcoat when you're running around the streets of DC with maybe some fur on the collar and goldfish in your platform.
Don't take them there, Sheikh.
Also, the garments adorn and beautify. So the man and the woman adorn and beautify. They provide protection to each other. And so we have to be strong men. And if we are strong men, then we will contribute to strong families. And I think a lot of the flight away from the traditional family could be abetted.
Yes.
What? And that's a responsibility, and it takes a lot of commitment. It takes a lot of training. It takes mentorship. It takes relationship with each other as men. I think one of the things that we should cherish women-only spaces and men-only spaces, that spaces where men can talk about things that have been historical and traditional concerns of men. I think as we eliminate those spaces, then the ability to have open and conversations about what we need to do better as men, where we're lacking as men. Those conversations don't take place, and the same for women. I don't want to call anyone out, but one of our sisters wrote an article a few years back about just the precious nature of women-only spaces and what happened when they're disrupted and intruded upon. And so I think those some things. Of course, there's always more to be said. There's always a lot to be said, and there are going to be people that don't like what you say. But we have to forge on. We have to put our trust in Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and support each other. We have to listen to the counsel of women. The Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he listened to the counsel of Salama to break the impasse at Hudaybiyah. He was comforted by Khadija, radiyallahu anha, radiyallahu anhum ajmain, sallallahu alayhi wasallam. And so we have to have that ability to do what those far better than us have done, and who are far better men than us has done.
All right, Sheikh went out. I'm sorry, people. He warned us, and I think his computer died, but it was a great show. I'm gonna try and get this question answered for my brother Ridwan. I'm sorry, man. I tried to get him to the question, but listen, maybe you and I should talk, because this is probably a great conversation for us within this movement. Really, is to, I would say, man, talk to the elders, if you will. Okay, Imam Zaid is back. He's back, people. Hold on a minute. He's trying to come back. All right, let me see. In any event, I'm going to put this one up here. All right, let me see. Okay, he's going to call back from the cell phone. He's a trooper, man. I have one. Brothers, please offer your thoughts. Man, I think it's important, the JT, Brother Thomas, I think it's important, man, to let our children see us work through problems in terms of how they'll, work with these problems, and see us really not, in some regards, talking about theoretical things, having real conversations. Because emotion, you're right, man. Emotions are going to wear out. All you're going to do is you're going to be mad. You're going to get tired, man. But that procedure, this 8-year-old kid talking to his mother about this whole thing, he just said, that's stupid. And I mean, I could really appreciate that. So let me clear that up. I'm going to give a shout out to Brother Dustin. Brother Dustin actually did me a huge solid, man. He put me in his Muslim Film Festival. He didn't have to. He just showed a lot of love, man. I really appreciate it. So Dustin, thank you again. I'm going to give a very public thank you. So I'm trying to get Imam Zaid back here. Not back yet. Okay, that's all right. So I think I need to remove me. Okay. So inshallah, we'll get him back. If not, we'll because he's a busy guy. So I want everybody to know that. So I was going to tell him as a part of being on the shout out show, I didn't have any money, so I'm going to give him an official black man shirt. That's right, brothers and sisters. Black man, black man, black man. I'm going to give him one of those. And man, so see, Tarek, brother Tarek, I know he has other engagements, man. So you know what? I just want to tell him thank you, man, and we'll get him back on another time. Is that cool? Is he back on? Let me see. Imam Zaid, are you there? I don't have him on. I don't have him on. Yeah, I don't have him on. So, sorry, we're gonna wrap and tell him I will give him a call. Is that okay? I can't see. Oh, I see him. Wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Imam Zaid. I don't see. I don't have him on. Can he see me? Okay, I think he's coming in now. Imam Zaid, you there? All right. I hear some crunchiness. Sheikh, you there?
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, man. Thank you so much for hanging with us.
Oh yeah, yeah. I found a charger, but maybe there wasn't enough juice in the computer to you know. I could come.
There we go.
On the phone. I could do that.
Sheikh, we got
You
you
thought
back.
you got rid of me.
No, man, I see, man. Sheikh probably gone somewhere, just chilling out.
I had the phone back up.
Oh man, it's all love, Sheikh. It's all love.
Alhamdulillah. You still live?
Yeah, you still alive. We right here, man. We on FBI right here, me and you.
Subhanallah. May
We,
Allah bless
we
everybody.
got
I know.
we got pictures on the screen like we're in the post office.
I know you got to wrap it up. May Allah bless you and bless all the people that tuned in. May Allah give everyone long life filled with much blessing.
I mean,
May Allah bless all your work that you do. May people come to realize that there's some serious messaging going on beneath the humor. And may Allah Ta'ala bless everyone to really be wise and judicious, but courageous at the same time during these times, to do whatever we can to make a difference. If we could change it with our hand constructively, to do that. If we can speak out against it in meaningful ways, to do that. And if we can, all of us, we share the ability to hate it in our hearts. And so if we can't do the former two, let us all hate the injustices, the oppression, the divisiveness, the racism, and we're talking all the way around in our hearts.
Yes,
and to
sir.
come together, work together for a better world. And maybe our children will have a different set of challenges. Inevitably, they'll be challenged because that's the nature of the world. It's the abode of trials and tribulations. This is not Jannah. And Jannah is Dar es Salam, the word, the abode salam. Before it means peace, it means being free from any imperfections or defects. And so may Allah Ta'ala bless us to understand this is not Dar es Salam, this is not Jannah, this is the dunya, and as such, It's the abode of trials, tests, and tribulations. But we pray that we make a big difference so that our children and grandchildren won't be tested and tried with racism in the ways we're tested and tried by it. They'll have a different set of tests and trials, but inevitably they will be tested. We will continue to be tested. And that's the nature of the world. Allah says we're going to test you with something of fear and hunger and loss of lives and fruit of wealth and lives and wealth and fruits. Give glad tidings to those who are patient. So may Allah bless us with patience, that we never lose our cool, that we never act like fools, that we try to obey constructive rules, and that true elevation means going to school, but not the school of this world necessarily, but the school of scripture that will set you free. And everything else that I can say remains to be revealed in the dragons we can slay, the dragons of our nafs, our ego, and our lust. It's all about that, and in God we trust. So put your trust in your Lord above, and you'll find your heart filled with the capacity to love and to reach out to all of humanity in a healthy way, and the words, and to be guided by scripture and the words that you say, and what you share will come from the depths of your heart, and that's where true reform will start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum, Sheikh.
Hey, this is the Preacher Moss show, man. You gotta show out.
You had to do it.
We can't do that. We can't do the Ivy Tower thing with Preacher Moss, y'all.
You're getting a black man hoodie.
Black man.
My brother.
That shirt's so nice. He had to say it twice. Black man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That's our show, everybody. I hope you had a great time in advance. Celebrate Juneteenth. Celebrate it with education. And then for Father's Day, listen, be present. Enjoy your gifts, your children, your wives, because you only get one day. And it ain't nothing like Mother's Day. So, you know what? Act like it's like Mother's Day. But in any event, thank you so much for tuning in. This was our first guest. I am very happy. I want to give a shout out to Brother Tariq Sohani, who made this whole thing possible, getting Imam Zaid on the show. All you people that came on the show in the comment section, God bless you. Have an excellent weekend, and I hope to see you soon. Actually, I'll see you tomorrow, but in any event, between now and tomorrow, have an excellent day. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope to see you soon. Thanks again, Tariq. Appreciate you, man. Peace now.